Hey there, I'm Nicholas Dubois, co-founder of Advanced SimRacing. We are a Canadian company. So what we did here today is for a real petrol head. He's really passionate about cars, as you can see behind me. We did a turnkey solution for him based on his needs. We try to gather as much information as we can on our client. And like we did today, we install a D-box system. We install ultra-wide cube control steering wheel. We try to provide the best quality for your budget. So let's say if you want a budget of 10 grand, we're gonna give you something that's the best for 10 grand. If you want 20 grand, then we always try to stay within your boundaries. We do try to make it as easy as possible. So the client, once we install everything, it's pretty much gonna be a turnkey. So he's gonna press start on his computer, and right after, we'll try to explain everything, how it goes, how it works, and then he's ready to go. Our aluminum is from USA, treated in Canada, cut in Canada. So we do sand all our aluminum piece just to make sure the powder coat sticks to it. And that's one of the reasons why we use powder coat, is to make sure you have the best aluminum finish in the industry. And our quality is beyond what you can get with any other competitors right now. We are really, really passionate about all the gear, all the cockpits, all the sim hardware, and that's why we want to create something that's really going to reflect our passion into our product. Come visit us at advancedsimracing.com. You can always reach us if you have any questions. You can call us, you can text us, you can go on Facebook, like our page, ask us questions over there, and we'll make sure to answer every questions there is. We are very passionate about what we do, and we try to make it as easier for you to go into the sim racing world, because there's a lot of gear, there's a lot of options, but let us guide you through your process, and let's hope you'll be an Advanced Sim Racing customer.
A round of 8 in the playoffs begins now, and what better place for it than the quirky single mile of Phoenix Raceway. This is the first time the Precision Racing League NASCAR Truck Series visits this rendition of the circuit after its update by iRacing, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Reese Gardner, and with me in the booth is Chris Phoebe. Behind the scenes is our director, Zach Johnson, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Phoenix, in any guise it's held over the years, has always been a bit of an oddball oval. Let's head to the track guide to learn more about it.
Welcome to Phoenix Raceway. This diamond in the desert was originally built in 1964 and was intended to be a bastion of open-wheel racing. With USAC's Midget, Sprint, and Silver Crown divisions all quickly adding the 1 mile oval to their schedule, that goal was soon achieved. Champ Car also soon began to call the track home with 2 races at the circuit. 1988 saw the track join the NASCAR schedule, and along with it came the addition of a 3-story suite outside of Turn 1 and an increased grandstand capacity of 30,000. However, the best place to watch the race itself to this day is from the nearby hillside christened Monument Hill. The track's design is relatively unique in terms of oval construction, featuring a dog leg for Turn 1 rather than a traditional D-oval or tri-oval configuration. Throughout the years, the track has gone through many changes, most recently seeing the turns reprofiled and moving the start-finish line to just before the dog leg. In terms of racing itself, Phoenix offers many different options and lines for drivers to take. The Turn 1 dog leg is taken flat out in most every car that comes to the circuit, with 2 wide possible in Stock Car Series. The long, sweeping nature of Turn 2 offers a multitude of lines and plenty of ways to try to force your way past the driver in front. However, be wary of early entry into the corner, as drivers may tend to find understeer and the outside wall waiting for them on corner exit. Turn 3 is the highest bank corner on the circuit, and while the fastest line tends to be the traditional low line, it's not uncommon to see drivers carry good momentum on the high side, setting up a thrilling duel across the start-finish.
Well then, Chris, Phoenix Raceway, very recently updated to its current configuration, shifting the start-finish line and a brand new pit lane that goes around the majority of the track. This has always been a bit of a challenging circuit, hasn't it? And it will certainly be no different tonight.
That is definitely a fact here today, Reese. As you can see, the updated layout, so what was once 1 and 2 becomes 3 and 4 here, as the start-finish line goes right to the middle of the dog leg. From what I've seen here in practice, the biggest challenge today is going to be entry and exit off of pit road. Hopefully these guys will have a caution or something that they can use to do that, because a green flag stop could be disastrous with the weird blend lines and interesting pit road entry. Also, we're going to see a lot of racing on the apron here. This is the open dog leg. You can go pretty much as wide as you want once you get to the start finish line. So going to be a lot of passing opportunities down there, and the reconfigured banking and everything will add for a little bit of better racing as well.
Certainly shall, and you mentioned cautions. Well, this race is going to be 100 laps long, at least that's the idea. We'll see if there are any cautions that push us to go time certain to the 1 hour time limit. Before we get things going, let's thank our sponsors. Our broadcast is brought to you by ASR, owned and operated by passionate sim racers. Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminium profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. Visit them at advancedsimracing.com.
It's also sponsored by RaceLab. RaceLab helps you to improve your driving skills with modern overlays, race statistics, and native VR integration. You can get the best out of iRacing. Start using it now for free at RaceLab.app.
Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by ButtKicker. ButtKicker products add an incredible immersion and realism to any game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Check them out at thebuttkicker.com.
Today's event is also brought to you by SimMSA. Simulation MotorSports Affinity provides many consulting services, from completely customizing simulators to managing teams, individual drivers, and complete events. They're working hard to bring everyone together at one place to support and promote sim racing internationally. Find out how you can bridge the gap between virtual and real motorsports at SIMMSA.net.
And finally, the PRL NASCAR Truck Series is brought to you by NinjaTrader. Ready to compete against the financial markets? Supporting over 60,000 users across the globe, NinjaTrader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. NinjaTrader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit ninjatrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance. Well, the dying minutes of practice are upon us, and before we get into qualifying, we should check out how things are standing in the championship here in the Precision Racing League NASCAR Truck Series, as we have plenty of drivers testing the limits here tonight, as you can see. Abner Acosta leading the drivers' standings here in 2021 Season 4, finally taking that championship lead from Matthew Long after a couple of rounds, and Bradley Holly with less than stellar race last round at Martinsville. A little bit further back than he'd want to be, but it's still very close for second there.
That's right. The team's championship is also heating up. Reese, still that Whataback Overdrive Racing team, but the battle right now is for second spot. Just 15 points between Whataback Back Row Racing and Car Ramrod. And that's really the story of the battle, is Overdrive seems to have the top spot on lock for the moment. But who their next closest challenger is going to be is definitely still up in the air.
Absolutely. It'd be interesting to see what the team standings look like after this round. And in terms of the playoffs, well, as I mentioned off the top of the broadcast, it is the start of the round of 8. That means, unfortunately, after Martinsville, Daniel Knight, Jim Westerfield, Josh Conker, and Patrick Cowgill are out of the chase for the year-long title. It was certainly a dramatic one at Martinsville last week, and a few drivers paying the price there, but the main protagonist protagonists at the top of the championship, Bradley Holly, Abner Acosta, and the like, still making their way through. This is going to be very intense. We've got Darlington and Homestead coming up, Chris. Those two tracks certainly going to bring out the best in some of these drivers.
That's right, a definitely unique mix of tracks between Phoenix, Darlington, and Homestead. As you see, Patrick Cowgill tried to give it the beans, but unfortunately backfired on him as he goes around on his lap. Cowgill so far still second quick here in qualifying, with Clayton Montgomery right at the top of the charts, turning a 27 triple ones. So good time for Montgomery right now as we're in the initial stages of qualifying for this event.
Indeed, and one more look at the race details for tonight. It is 100 laps around here at Phoenix Raceway. Again, the tyres are going to be very important. You only get 4 sets, and it's basically the only thing you're required to change at a pit stop in these trucks. Of course, with the walls being as close as they are and Phoenix being as challenging as it is, there's certainly going to be a few drivers in the field tonight going awry of the no spare truck rule, but they are all running a fixed setup, all running the same settings. It's going to be all about the driver, how they can tune themselves into the setup. Want to try and keep things a little bit clean as well, because that 24 incident limit will be looming over everyone's head. So, qualifying, of course, is underway. It is still Clayton Montgomery who is up at the top. Joshua Daniels P2, Doug Evans P3. And we've had 20 drivers setting times so far in this session. Our championship protagonists leaving it a little late here to get it going in the session. We do have the likes of Bradley Holly out on track, and it seems to me that the drivers that we would expect to be up at the top aren't quite there. Bradley Holly setting a 27.2, and that's good enough for P6 at the moment. He is on his second lap now, and it will be interesting to see if he can get those extra 10th or 2 to get himself up to the pole position. On board with Bradley Holly, demonstrating the new configuration of Phoenix. That was the old start-finish straight he just went through, and now out of the former turns 1 and 2 across the line, 27.19 for Bradley Holly, and that's going to elevate him up to P4. But it is Matthew Long who has managed to surprise us, I think, getting himself up to P2 in those intervening moments.
Yeah, it's nice to see for Matthew. He's had some disastrous qualifying performances the last couple weeks, so it's good to see Matthew in the mix. Has made a lot of headway the last couple weeks, but he's definitely put himself behind the 8 ball in the starting position. So we'll see if with a little bit better shot at the top, what he can turn that into.
Interesting to note that our championship leader, Abner Acosta, has decided not to set a time. He's one of, it seems, 9 drivers who have elected not to set a time in qualifying. Only under 20 seconds to go in the session now, so none of them are going to be able to get their times on the board. Daniel Knight, it seems, the only car out on track in the dying moments of this session, and he's going slow. He's done with his run. So I think that is going to be how things stand here in the Precision Racing League NASCAR Truck Series at Phoenix Raceway. This is the grid. This is how things are going to stack up for the next 100 laps in Arizona. Clayton Montgomery and Matthew Long are the front row of your grid. Joshua Daniels and P2 in the championship, Bradley Holly, or P3 actually, only a point behind Matthew Long or so in 4th place. Doug Evans and Daniel Knight start 5th and 6th. Row 4 is Danny Cervantes and Patrick Cowgill, who's still looking for some good results despite being knocked out of the playoffs. CM Pennington and Colton Lane will round out the top 10.
Just outside of the top 10, we are going to see Charles Sumner with a solid 11th place showing on the grid, with Jim Westerfield right to his outside. Lucky 13th on the grid is going to be Nicholas Hunter, with Austin Hunter right to his outside, then Joao Guerra and Rob Naylor in the 8th row. Adam Young starts 17th alongside Doyle Lawrence, then Ryan Traver and Patrick Karen complete the top 20.
Starting out at 21st is going to be Clayton Curry. He's got Danik Momi alongside him. Adam Zemke, who won the first round of 2021 Season 4, starts out at 23rd alongside Tom Amassi. And Miguel Angel Cardoso, the last driver to set a time. And certainly that wasn't the quickest time of the night there. Abner Acosta, championship leader, is going to be starting alongside Miguel. And then we get into the drivers that didn't set times. Mark Kalin and Rob Haynes on row 14. Top 30 rounded out by Thomas Sink and AJ Roderick. And then we've got Jose Medina, Adam Shane, Dalton Geyer, Baron Hilton, and Eric Hauk rounding out our 35-car field under the lights here at Phoenix. So the drivers just lining up at the end of pit lane now, and we'll be getting the cue very soon for the safety car to pull away. Pace car, I should correct myself. I do come from a non-US racing background, so I do tend to use those terms a little bit, but they are pulling away. And Clayton Montgomery will be very happy with pole position for this. There's certainly the chance he needs to get a great result on the board here this season. He hasn't quite been knocking on the door of those top positions so far.
Yeah, this could be a great turn of luck for Clayton Montgomery with a really great qualifying run, picking up his pole. You can see the pace car pulls off very early on this new layout, so they still have this whole straightaway here before they get to the line.
Yes, this is the old start-finish straight they're going down, and that pit lane reconfiguration means that there's quite a trip around pit lane at Phoenix now. It's quite interesting to see. But Clayton Montgomery, at his discretion, will go as they enter the start-finish straight now. The green flag flies, and we are racing in the PRL NASCAR Truck Series at Phoenix. They dip below the dogleg massively for the first time. It's a pretty good start from Joshua Daniels. He's starting to come up the inside of Matthew Long there as they come through the first couple of turns through this lovely open corner. Back down the old start-finish straight again, halfway around lap 1. So Bradley Holly just behind them. He's looking to gain a little bit more time there, but we'll see how aggressive he decides to be. He's got a lot of an advantage here as championship rival Abner Acosta has started down in the field. And it seems that actually Acosta has not taken the start. Hang on a minute. That is a bit of a dramatic happening here. And oh dear, got a car spinning around behind. The track is blocked. The safety car is back out. We got the caution flag. And that looks to be CM Pennington in car 44 that ended up bringing that caution out. Looked like quite the fishtail coming off the turn there.
Yeah, he definitely took a tank slapper off of what used to be turn 4. And ended up spinning it around. Almost had it saved for a second there, but then it snapped around on him. And unfortunately, that straightaway is very narrow here at Phoenix Raceway, as we'll see here, and it makes it very hard to traverse when you have somebody facing the wrong way.
Yes, indeed. Well, we're seeing a view from in the field here coming out of the very open left-hander, and there is CM Pennington just going for a bit of a slide on the low line, and that is a very awkward spot to be in. Basically spread eagle across the racing line, and it took out a couple of other drivers as well. Turned out to be a minor pile-up that we've seen in the midfield here at Phoenix, but fortunately, there haven't been as many cars taken out as we've seen in previous big ones. Talladega springs to mind.
Yeah, this track, it doesn't seem to matter whether that you call that turn 2, turn 4, whatever. That turn over there that's now turn 2 of the oval track here at Phoenix, that transition is super awkward. The track narrows up a lot when you come off of turn 2 onto that straightaway. And it's very deceiving when you're carrying a whole lot of speed into that corner coming off. And as we saw with CM Pennington there, the track definitely has a tendency to tighten up and throw you for a loop.
Absolutely. Also got to consider the flatness of that turn. It is preserved in this newest configuration of Phoenix, and certainly very easy to lose the rear. Well, as we're under caution, we have had cars go through the pits, the likes of AJ Roderick, CM Pennington, of course, Clayton Curry, Baron Hilton, Huer Guerra, Dalton Gaia, Adam Young, and Adam Shane as well. But as we're under caution, let's give a little bit of airtime to the biggest development in terms of the championship fight. Abner Acosta not participating in qualifying, not taking the start. That's basically just a massive free kick to Bradley Holly and Matthew Long.
Yeah, they do have a drop week here in the PRL, but this will basically, without a doubt, be Abner's drop week if he's not able to make the start. Well, wasn't able to make the start if he's not able to make the race.
Yes, so certainly means that he's going to have to be on his A game for all remaining rounds of the season from here on out. So much more intrigue in this championship fight, but the drivers are lining up for another start here. Montgomery and Long still your front row, with Daniels and Holly on row 2, and it looks like Clayton going early there, taking everyone by surprise, going a little bit before the green flag, and Joshua Daniels slips up the inside of Matthew Long through the dogleg to take second place. Very well executed maneuver there as Bradley Holly tries to hold the outside versus Daniel Knight, and tiny bit of oversteer from the number 17 truck, but certainly he manages to recover it. Hopefully, the drivers manage to get into a good rhythm here without much of an incident. These nighttime conditions here at Phoenix mean that there's a little bit more of a knife edge to the way the cars lose grip. But Daniel Knight managing to try and stake his claim through the dogleg on Bradley Holly. Not quite successful that time around. It seems Holly is driving his truck a little bit harder into the turns, trying his best to gain that position, and it looks like he's managed to take it. He moves on in front. Matthew Long, though, running a little bit wide there in the final turn. This could give Bradley Holly the chance he needs, and he cuts low into the dogleg. Basically all the cars leaving the track there, but of course you can do that here at Phoenix Raceway. Clayton Montgomery starting to get a bit pressured by Joshua Daniels, who's just set the fastest lap of the race.
And it's one of my favorite sights in all of racing. When they hit that dog leg and you see the trucks just fan out all 4, 5, 6 wide, diving down onto the apron. Some stay on the track. I mean, it is just such a cool sight, and you have to deal with merging traffic as they come back up. It's so cool.
One of the many unique challenges of Phoenix Raceway. It looks like drivers are setting into a bit of a rhythm here. Montgomery still pressured massively by Joshua Daniels, but it seems he's reasonably comfortable up in the front. It's a tiny bit high there for Bradley Holly as well, but it doesn't seem to have affected him in his battle with Matthew Long. Just made his way past him, and that's going to be crucial for the championship between them as well. Holly only trails Long by a single point, if my memory serves me correctly. Now that we're in a rhythm, the weather here certainly going to play a part. It's a 26-degree track temperature in terms of Celsius. That's 79 Fahrenheit. 58% humidity, which seems to be reasonable, but that's going to be one of those things that the drivers will be considering. It's not the coolest of tracks, but certainly it's a darn sight cooler than the 30 or 40 degrees that we've seen in various other rounds this season. Matthew Long having to go a bit wide there for Daniel Knight into the final turn, and Knight with the inside line definitely has the advantage there, and you can do that on the fresh tyres, but it looks like we've got a caution out, an incident for a couple of trucks at the back.
I believe that is I think that yellow truck is Joao Guara. That may have been,
yes,
caught up in that, and trying to see who that is behind him, the 89 of Patrick Karen. So those two getting caught up in something here, Reese.
I've just gone back and checked it. It looks to me like Patrick Karen running wide, and Huer Guerra approaching at full speed. He was unable to back out of it in time and ended up giving Patrick Karen a good whack. Here's the incident, and there you go. Guerra just taking the racing line there, and I think not quite prepared for the lack of speed that Patrick Karen was carrying.
Yeah, that was definitely not the most graceful of dances these two had.
Yeah, there you go. It looks like Patrick Carron may be pushing a bit too hard into the turn there, the wide flat corner, and pushing up the racetrack, trying his best to keep it out of the wall. But of course, the difference of speed in a corner like that will certainly bring you a cropper. We've seen a few more drivers make their way into the pits now as a result of this caution. Nicholas Hunter in, and the likes of Clayton Curry, Tom Amassi, Jose Medina, Baron Hilton for his second stop, and Eric Hauk in the lane as well. No big surprise that Patrick Carron is in there as well. But it's still very early in the race to be thinking about tyre pit stops for these guys. You know, tyres, the main sort of component of strategy in these trucks. And you would expect at a track like Phoenix, where obviously you've got that very flat corner in the middle of the lap, that's going to work the tyres pretty hard. But these nighttime conditions and the cooler temperatures, they may just result in drivers being able to extend their tyre stints.
And another thing you have to factor into that too is that we're racing in the desert, and what that means is you have all the sand and stuff that blows across the track, and that can add to the grittiness of the surface, if especially if it was a pretty active windy day when the track was scanned. So, I mean, we could be looking at a fairly aggressive surface, plus, as you mentioned, it is flat, so it's a lot of centrifugal force being exerted onto those tires going through the corners. But it is also relatively new asphalt, which, that, along with the nighttime temperatures, could help extend the life. So I guess what I'm saying about the tires is I have really no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah, and I would probably echo that. We're looking to be surprised here on the Global Sim Racing channel tonight. The light's still on the pace car, but should be not much of time before we get ourselves into green flag racing again. Hasn't been much of a change at the top of the field. It's still Montgomery, Daniels and Holly, your top three, as we're on lap 15 of 100. And remember, these races are time limited to an hour, and we've had 2 cautions so far. I don't think it's going to be the same deal as Martinsville last week, where we certainly got towards the time limit. We've already got 49 minutes left in the allotted race time, so we've got an extra 10 minutes or so to play with for these guys. But if this race ends up being a caution fest, then we might see the drivers having to compromise their strategies a bit within the time limit.
No, we've talked about kind of the unique layout of this track, but I was trying to do some research here before we got started, figuring out why this track was shaped so weird. Turns out the story is way less interesting than I had hoped. The guy that owned the track at the time didn't want to adjust the road course to fit an oval track, so that's why it's shaped so weird, because somebody didn't want to have to deal with refiguring the road course. That was the main part of the track at the time.
Yes, of course. If you head on over to racingcircuits.info and search up Phoenix Raceway, you'll get some very interesting information on the history of that track. I think it's a shame that the full road course is not really used anymore at this place, especially it's not able to be used now that the oval has been reconfigured the way it has. But the green flag flies and we're racing once again. It's another good start from Clayton Montgomery. All the way to the bottom of the dogleg goes Bradley Holly, and that is crucial there. Managed to slip up the inside of Joshua Daniels, who flings his truck into turn 2 to try and stay ahead. But Bradley Holly just inching ahead there. He has been a bit compromised off the corner, though, and that does allow Joshua Daniels to be ahead when they get into the next corner. But again, pushing a bit too hard there. And it looks like the number 17 of Daniel Knight looking to take advantage. Staying a bit high up through the dogleg, just trying to keep some stability, and that's something the drivers have to take into account. The transition onto the flat apron through the dogleg can very easily unsettle the truck. Daniel Knight having to slip back behind Joshua Daniels. So very good stuff for Bradley Holly. Now up into P2, and it's been a pretty strong race drive from him so far. He's starting to round up Clayton Montgomery at the front.
Yeah, but I mean, this has definitely been a career run for Clayton Montgomery. Definitely showing the most muscle he's had in his time in the PRL Truck Series this season. But unfortunately, he's got a big dog tracing behind him with the 184 of Bradley Holly, who could be ready to strike at any moment.
It's going to be crucial here to see what kind of exit Clayton Montgomery ends up getting. It looks like Bradley Holly just carrying slight little inches of momentum more, and Montgomery choosing to go a little bit wide in turns 2 and 3. Interesting to see, and I think part of that might be to preserve the tyres. Sometimes running the tighter line is not the best way to go here at Phoenix, but of course running the tighter line around the rest of the track, definitely something that he's doing. The top two starting to break away from the rest of the field here. There's a little bit of a gap forming between Bradley Holly and Joshua Daniels, but we'll see how the ebb and flow of the race defines that.
Yeah, Bradley Holly, a driver that very often is content to run second until he decides it's time that he wants to go. So I don't know how much of this is just a cat and mouse game.
Ooh.
And looks like now is the time. Of course, as we say it, Bradley Holly pulls to the inside, and he will move in front of the 45 of Clayton Montgomery to take the lead.
So Bradley Holly, P1, as we're on board with Joshua Daniels. Remember, if you want to check out our live timing, go to gsrc.tv. Montgomery is fighting back here for the lead. Tighter line in the high-banked final corner, but Bradley Holly manages to get the run round the outside. Montgomery cuts down to the dog leg to try and maintain some form of momentum, cover as little distance as possible, but he's starting to fall back here. Have a look at Joshua Daniels. He's doing the same thing that he was doing a few laps ago, just pushing a little bit harder into the corners, forcing the driver on the tighter line to compromise their exit and try to get the position down the old start-finish straight, but Montgomery is not willing to let go. He's holding strong. Through the dog leg they go once again, but Joshua Daniels, it looks like, has done enough to inch ahead into second place. Well, a good run from Clayton Montgomery regardless, leading the opening laps of this race. And of course, here in the PRL, you do get a point for every lap led, so that's certainly going to help Clayton Montgomery's championship run there.
And you got the 17 of Daniel Knight working to the outside of Montgomery. Knight is definitely a driver that is hungry for a chance to get back to victory lane. He's looked pretty aggressive here in the early going. Looks like we may have had some kind of battle there towards the back. Looks like 57 of Zemke having some engine issues. Not sure what prompted that.
Oh yeah, that's a big shame, and he's got quite the dent in his rear as well. He's going to be cutting down to the pits there, and he's going to be spending a lot of time getting that damage repaired, as will the number 56 here of AJ Roderick. They might have had a minor coming together there, but certainly Adam Zemke, that is a big shame for our round 1 winner. Oh, that's what happened. Oh my goodness, yeah, Zemke, he was an innocent victim there. Ended up going airborne due to an incident between 2 other trucks. Such a shame there. Getting turned around a little bit there by AJ Roderick was not too sure who that was in the green truck down on the bottom. But certainly, it was the 79. That was Miguel Angel Cardozo. Oh, man.
Yeah,
well,
always hate to see those types of incidences where somebody's just basically a innocent bystander and gets caught up in someone else's mess.
Well, Cardozo is still out there. He was the one who ended up having to wall it, but as luck would have it, he's the one who stays out on track. Zemke and Roderick are now down in the pits getting that damage repaired. Remember, no fast repair in PRL. Oh, big side-by-side running here back in the field. The top pack has broken away. Here's Patrick Cowgill and Charles Sumner fighting for 8th position. It looks like Cowgill getting the run off the final corner. A place where certainly the outside line is where you want to be. The high banking certainly benefiting you.
That's right. One thing they did do when they reconfigured this track is they did add in some progressive banking. So you do have a little bit more of a bank to the outside line, which can help on corner exit, but mainly that's a bigger deal in 3 and 4 than 1 and 2.
Absolutely. 1 and 2 still incredibly flat, even with the slight amount of progressive banking. So here we go then, the number 4 making their way through. Well, 41, my apologies. Doug Evans. He's fighting with Matthew Long at the moment, who's fallen back slightly since the start of the race. A little bit of a gap ahead to the likes of Clayton Montgomery, our pole sitter, and Daniel Knight up in P3. Evans starting to push it here versus Matthew Long. Getting a very nice run out of the dogleg section, and he's dragging Danny Cervantes with him. Danny, of course, occupying the position he started in, still 7th, but it seems that these guys are having a whale of a time because they're pulling away from everyone else. Cowgill is... Oh, Cowgill! I just saw him have a big oversteer moment out of 3 and 4. That's going to compromise him slightly and increase that gap to the pack ahead. It might give another chance here to Charles Sumner, maybe even to Rob Haynes, and Thomas Sink as just behind them, running slightly wide, is Colton Lane, and he gives Mark Kalin a good bump on the exit of the corner. Up the inside is Rob Haynes on Charles Sumner, trying his best to get it done. They all go wide here, and Haynes, my goodness, what a move there. Manages to get, what was that, 3 trucks in one corner as Patrick Cowgill ran wide.
And that is definitely no slouch is Haynes in the 199 today. His qualifying performance, probably not what he wanted exactly. Started pretty deep in the field. Actually didn't even put in a qualifying time, but he was quickest in practice. So Rob Haynes has been very fast throughout the day here, and I think he could definitely be a threat here at the end of the day if he plays his cards right.
It'll all come down to whether or not there's another caution, whether or not green flag pit stops end up being a thing. But Patrick Cowgill, he's not having the best of times there at the moment, is he? He's running wide. He's not getting the opportunity to go down to the inside. There's always a truck there down on the bottom for him. And, oh my goodness, he's pushing very hard into 3 and 4. I think he might be having a couple of balance issues with his truck, just struggling to get back online like he wants to. He's going to lose some positions out of that. Meanwhile, up ahead, it looks like Charles Sumner keeping Colton Lane behind him, and Colton has managed to drop Mark Kalin, so they're going to continue that fight. But Thomas Sink, he managed to get through all of that kerfuffle that we saw, and he's starting to round up Rob Haynes here, so the battle for 8th position certainly not over.
Yeah, and it's definitely this middle portion of the field here is pretty hotly contested right now, Reese. I mean, these guys are all jockeying for position, and it seems like they're all moving forward at a very different rate of speed.
Yeah, there's a lot of shuffling going on as they go 3 wide here. Oh dear. Oh man, as coming out of the dogleg, that was a very tight line through the dogleg for Doug Evans. He does manage to move to the front of that pack, but the number 60 of Colton Lane will not make it easy here for Mark Kalin. My apologies for misnaming you, Mark, in the orange and black truck. It has been a few weeks, but I'm still getting used to all of the liveries and numbers of this series. The fight, though, continues through the dogleg. This is now the battle for position 10, as Sink and Haynes actually started to catch some lapped traffic up ahead. Patrick Caron just up ahead, but he does let them go without much fuss. It does seem that Haynes and Sink, they're starting to round up the drivers up ahead. The battle with Danny Cervantes and Doug Evans, 28-6, 28-5 for them, and running roughly the same times as Sink and Haynes. So if they manage to preserve their tyres for the next couple of laps, then they might be able to have a bit of a run at the top half of the top 10 as we look at Evans and Cervantes fighting for 6th and 7th.
And how about this, Reese? We had a bit of a clunky start, but these guys are clicking off laps here relatively quick, hoping to not evoke the commentator's curse here.
Touch wood.
That's a really weird way to say that. You guys in Australia must must be a...
Have you never heard that before?
I've heard knock on wood, but I've never heard touch wood before.
All right, okay. Yeah, that must be an Aussie thing. Oh, you learn something new every day. Sometimes it's about your own culture. That's the beautiful thing about sim racing. Brings people from all walks of life, from all across the world together.
Also makes me realize my desk is only made out of simulated wood, so we may be in trouble here.
Yeah, well, there's no wood on my desk, so I think I'm in a bit of trouble there as well. I can. Okay, our director has knocked on some wood, and I have a McDonald's bag down beside me, and that's made out of paper, which is made from wood, so I guess that counts.
Shout out to McDonald's for supplying our superstitions. Global sim racing channel.
Not a sponsor, as the number 41 of Doug Evans is doing a very good job here of holding off Danny Cervantes, but look at them, they're catching up to Matthew Long here, who's fallen off the wagon a little bit in terms of pace. 28.5s still being run, but he's starting to drop off the back of the cars up ahead and having to deal with a bit of lap traffic in the midst of it as well. That means he'll have to compromise his lines a bit. He's currently beside Tom Imasi, and Eric Hauk is going to be his next target. Down to the dog leg they go. Eric Hauk, of course, battling for 25th position with Tom Imasi there, and they're both carrying a fair amount of damage. There's not many trucks left out there in the latter half of the field that are completely clean, and this is looking a bit intense. Lapped cars and lead lap cars all trying to negotiate over the same piece of racetrack, but looks like they're making it easy for each other. They're leaving the room, leaving a good amount of space for them to cut down and get things done without too much risk of a crash, which is what we like to see. And you know, I am actually surprised that they are ticking off the laps like they are. We had, of course, 2 cautions very close together at the start of the race, but so far it's looking like this is a pretty clean run, and we might see some green flag pit stops very shortly.
Yeah, this is a track where encountering lap traffic is not a lot of fun. It seems like this track is not very consistent in its width. Parts of the track race very narrow, parts are extremely wide, like through the dog leg, so trying to negotiate lap traffic can definitely get a bit hairy, as we see Rob Haynes closing in on Thomas Sink there.
Yeah, it's been a great run here from Rob Haynes, and he maximizes the exit of the final corner, making his way past Adam Young, who runs in 28th position at the moment. And I am been very impressed with Rob Haynes so far. Remember, he did start well outside the top 20 as we have a car on the lane. That's Doyle Lawrence, who's made his way in there. So the first of our green flag pit stops here. Remains to be seen how that's going to affect him later on, whether or not he'll have to come back in at some point towards the end of the race. He might be banking on a late caution to preserve his tyres.
I gotta say, I do enjoy when these races are nice round numbers like 100, so I can figure out things like halfway pretty easy, of which we're roughly a lap or so away from right now, as we just clicked over to, or just clicking over to lap 49.
Yeah, just coming up on half race distance now, and that it certainly helps that Phoenix Raceway is pretty much a mile dead on in length, and that's something that you don't often see in oval racing tracks nowadays. We've been talking in previous weeks about the explosion in the late 20th century of 1.5 mile ovals and the cookie cutters, as they are called. It's great to have some variety here, and Phoenix certainly provides that.
That's right. Phoenix is really almost a throwback track when you think about the Wild West days of racing throughout the 70s and 80s with IndyCar and NASCAR. And Phoenix was really one of those tracks that was on the cutting edge. It was different. It's obviously way out west compared to most of the home base for those series. and it just completely caters to a different audience than what we see. Oh, we have a tight
Side by side for the lead. Whew. Well, for second, sorry. Bradley Holly trying to work his way through just behind as Joshua Daniels is having quite the adventure here coming through the dog leg. There's so many cars around, I don't even know who to look at or who's where. Jesus, Mary and Joseph. Joshua Daniels threading the needle versus Clayton Montgomery, with Clayton Curry on the outside. Manages to get the position over our pole sitter there. So up into third again, I believe, or to second goes Joshua Daniels. Daniel Knight, meanwhile, he's still holding on to that position of second there, with Bradley Holly continuing to lead the way here at Phoenix. And we'll have to wait and see if these green flag pit stops start becoming a thing for these drivers. We are now past half race distance.
Now, Bradley Holly's got to be having some flashbacks with Daniel Knight running behind him and closing in. A couple seasons back, these two had just a very physical battle for the championship. Holly did eventually come out on top, but it seemed like every week Daniel Knight and Bradley Holly were getting tangled up together for the 10-week stretch, and made for a great championship and a nice talking point for us here on GSRC. But it's been quite a while since we've seen this rivalry rekindled, and right now Daniel Knight is clicking off some quick laps and could very well be ready to throw fists with Bradley Holly again here in the short term.
Yeah, look at him go. I've noticed that Daniel Knight has been running high on the entry to turns 2 and 3, and he's managing to get some great runs down the straights to draw up to the back of Bradley Holly here. Holly, of course, still running about a car's width up from the bottom. Oh, big oversteer moment for Daniel Knight there. That's a little bit of his momentum lost, but he'll still be in with a shot here of taking the race lead. Some intriguing battles going on here in the top 10. We do have some more green flag pit stops happening. A few cars making their way out of the pits. Rob Haynes actually going for a green flag pit stop on the previous lap. So remember, he was the one advancing quite far forward in the opening stages. So look out for him here now with less than half race distance to go. He'll be pushing on those tyres and making his way through some lap traffic at the moment. Adam Young just being passed there.
And you can see those fresh tires already paying off. Doug Evans just set the fastest lap, and he's not too recently removed from pit road. So obviously the undercut could play a role here.
It certainly could. Charles Sumner might be one of the drivers who's affected by that, as our leaders right in the midst here, having to go past the lap car of Patrick Caron and Daniel Knight. This is the chance that he needed as Haynes sets the fastest lap. Let's see if he can get the move done in the last couple of corners. He can indeed, but will Bradley Holly cut down to the dogleg to try and get the position back? He's going to attempt it and start to draw up alongside the number 17. Yes, and leaving room there, Daniel Knight, but that's the line that he's familiar with, that high line. As, oh, wow, the caution has come out, and it looked like Bradley Holly was looking to go into the pits, but very fortunate that he didn't, because, oh no, is that who I think it is? Rob Haynes going for a spin, and those fresh tyres will certainly not be happy with him there.
Well, that is not something you want to see for a driver that looked like he could be a threat. And unfortunately, just loses it off of turn 4. And, oof, I was hoping maybe he could avoid hitting the wall there, but made some pretty good contact with the right front into the inside wall there.
That looked like a very slippery corner there for Rob Haynes, as the field is all in pit lane now. Everyone who hadn't come in yet has come in. Knight leads the way into the pits. Then it's Holly, Montgomery, Daniels, Long, Cervantes, and Kalin all in. The only cars that haven't pitted so far, Ryan Traver and Danik Momi, but we can expect them in momentarily. Mark Kalin and Miguel Angel Cardozo all come in as well. Now, this is going to be an interesting set of pit stops here. The drivers will have to nail their marks and hope that their pit crews have their heads screwed on correctly. Right side tyres on, left side tyres on for everyone, and you certainly would want all 4 tyres there as Medina ends up filtering through to the lead. But remember, Medina was one of the first cars to pit under one of our opening cautions, so he's definitely going to have to come back into the pits before too long.
Yeah, but this opportunity for everybody to kind of reset here with the pit stop, it's going to definitely shake things up here. I'm interested to see how it's going to affect these last 40 laps.
Well, it looks to me like there's already been quite the shake-up. Bradley Holly, he's actually fallen a fair way back in terms of position after that pit stop. Clayton Montgomery filtering through to the effective race lead once again. And then it's Daniels, Long, Cervantes, and Kalin, your effective top 5 right now. And looks like with Medina going into the pits, they all filter back through into their positions. So Daniel Knight to the lead, but Bradley Holly now down in 8th.
So it looks like there's going to be, from what I'm hearing over the radio, a lot of wave arounds here as we get things reconfigured.
The caution came out, and I've just realized I don't think we actually saw the cause of the caution. Certainly it must have been quite the incident, because I've just seen a few disconnects in a row. We've lost Eric Hauk, Doyle Lawrence, so something has happened out on track. But regardless, it's not going to be much of a concern for the drivers up the front here, as the wave around is put on there for Doug Evans and his compatriots, the pace car keeping that constant speed. So the likes of Jim Westerfield, Clayton Curry, Charles Sumner, all making their way past. Rob Neller, CM Pennington, and there we go. The leaders have filtered back through. And interesting to see the weaving there for Daniel Knight. As the pace car comes in, we will be getting a restart very shortly. He's just trying to get a little bit more pressure into those tyres, I think, because he knows that the other drivers will certainly pounce if there's any semblance of a loss of grip. So then one turn to go. Let's see when Daniel Knight decides to go. He goes very early in the middle of turn 4 and leads the way across the line as we are green once again at Phoenix Raceway. The start of lap 64, and a very good run from Joshua Daniels and Danny Cervantes, getting Clayton Montgomery through the dog leg. I'm impressed that Montgomery's been able to hold on to those top positions there. He played the pit stop perfectly in the caution, but Daniel Knight has, oh dear, that's a big one at the back. The caution's back out again.
Yeah, looks like that's Colton Lane in the 60 trying to get eyes on who that is against the wall over
Dalton
there.
Geyer.
Oh, Dalton Geyer there. So a couple big hits there to put us right back under caution.
Oh man, that is a big shame for those two. Go to the replay, see what on earth happened. Looks to me like Geyer was running a bit high, and oh no, he lost it on his own. That was a high line being run through turn 2. And the other drivers, all innocent victims there, a big hit to the wall.
Yeah, that's been pretty much calamity corner for us here today. That transition off of turn 2 can definitely reach out and bite you. And unfortunately, it got... Ooh,
oh, man.
That was just a whale of a hit.
Oh. blew up his engine there. And you saw the yellow and black truck up ahead. That was Patrick Cowgill, I believe, who was very lucky to avoid that incident. But just goes to show how quickly things can change on an oval track. One little snap, one little overcorrection is all it takes. And we see the number 41 of Doug Evans back in the pits here for his second stop. Patrick Cowgill, Austin Hunter, Charles Sumner, Jim Westerfield, Rob Neller, all back in the lane as well. Just trying to keep their tyres as fresh as possible towards the end, and they'll be on their third set of tyres now. Next time they pit, if they have to pit again, they'll have to make those tyres last to the end.
It looks like a fair number of drivers heading down pit road too.
Yeah, that is interesting. Considering that a lot of these drivers will they'd only been on these tires for a few laps, but I suppose if you're back down in the field, it's worth it coming back in again. Just trying to keep the tires in their optimum state towards the end on a fresh set. CM Pennington, one of the cars in the lane at the moment. We've got Emasi, Young, and Hilton down in there as well. Oh goodness! So seems that we had the double caution at the start, and then a double caution with 2/3 of the race done. Maybe that bodes well for the closing stages of the race. We might have a green flag run to the end.
Well, we can definitely cross our fingers for that. With Daniel Knight out front. Now, we were discussing it off air here, but it looks like Bradley Holly either had a really bad pit stop or maybe took some kind of penalty, because he entered the pits leading before that set of cautions there, and now he's back to 10th place. So wondering what may have happened for the driver of the 184.
Yeah, I was curious to see the pit stop that he had. I mean, in terms of pit stop time, it seems that he was pretty regular compared to everyone else. You know, everyone's been running around 14, 15-second stop times, and Bradley Holly ran around that. But I don't know, perhaps he accidentally overshot his pit stall and had to reverse back in. Maybe that's the reason why he lost so much time. Well, he's going to have chances here to get back into the lead now that the pace car is in the pits, and we can go back racing here at Phoenix Raceway. It is Daniel Knight and Joshua Daniels on the front row. You see also Patrick Cowgill up there in this front pack. The likes of Mark Kalin looking to advance forward. Kalin's up 20 positions as Daniel Knight puts the power down, and we're racing again. Have a look at Clayton Montgomery going to the inside of the dog leg. He wants that second place. Trying up the inside of Joshua Daniels in turn 2. My goodness. That outside line, certainly where you want to be. Daniel's getting a great run and trying to stick one up the inside of Daniel Knight for the race lead. Knight comes down on him, but leaves him room. Trying to maximize the outside line.
It looks like that 77 is absolutely flying here in the opening laps back under green. As he gets to the inside now, a little bit different than what we had last time when he was on the outside. But Daniel Knight sticks right in front of him, taking away the advantage, and looks like Knight will hang on for another lap.
But for how long? Goodness me.
And how about that 25 of Danny Cervantes up there in the mix now? He's had a really quiet night, and now he's knocking on the door of the top 3 as Daniel Knight goes to fastest lap purple in all 3 sectors, as we like to say.
Very good stuff from Daniel Knight, and great stuff from Danny Cervantes outside line in turn 2. Clayton Montgomery might have to yield the position here. He does have the tighter line through turn 3 and turn 4. But the dog leg will certainly help him as well. Got to keep an eye out for the number 62 of Mark Kalin here. Wow. He's keeping them very honest. Matthew Long as well, don't forget about him, he's up there too, as Danny Cervantes finally completes the move on Clayton Montgomery, moves ahead of him down the old start-finish straight. We got a crash at the back. I think we might be seeing another caution. We have, and that is a big one. Oh, it's a parking lot down there. Cowgill involved, Charles Sumner, Tommy Massey, Nicholas Hunter, Rob Nella, Rob Haynes. Spun is Clayton Curry. What on earth went on to cause that?
Well, it definitely had to have been a pretty big mess there. Saw about half the field parked on that straightaway.
All right, so as we go to the replay, it actually looks like the trigger was a slide for Jim Westerfield in the number 35. You see him just spin up the rears here on the exit of turn 2 and then come across everyone behind. And as the cars ricochet off the wall, there's basically nowhere for any of those drivers to go.
Well, that is definitely going to have a detrimental effect on the competitive trucks in this last portion of the race, because that just became a huge mess there on the straightaway.
Man, that is a shame. Well, we've got 18 minutes to go in terms of race time, and I think that should still allow us to complete the full 100 laps here. So we're not in any danger of going over the time limit. Nonetheless, if there's more cautions like this one, if there's more incidents like this, then we're certainly going to be having to deal with a slightly shortened race distance. But man, that is a shame to see, and just goes to show in oval racing you have to put a lot of trust in your competitors. One mistake can change the fortunes of half the field, as pit lane's a hive of activity again. And no surprise that Patrick Cowgill, Charles Sumner and Rob Haynes are in the pit lane. Miguel Angel Cardozo in there as well.
Yeah, you really got a feel for Rob Haynes. I think he had a chance at a pretty solid finish here today, and unfortunately has been wrong place, wrong time in a couple different incidences, and that is going to definitely turn his day a little bit sour.
It's a pretty sweet day, on the other hand, for Daniel Knight. It's been a great run from him, up 5 positions from where he started. As things stand, biggest mover in the field is Thomas Sink. Remember, Thomas, I think one of the drivers that didn't set a time in qualifying. He's now up into 5th place in the number 48. And Mark Kalin in the 62 up ahead, up 22. So I reckon they can certainly come away, those drivers, from this race with a good idea of the pace they continue to hold. And it also goes to show that qualifying is not that important in oval racing.
Yeah, a lot of that will depend on the course, and this track has definitely been very friendly to passing here today, so it's allowed some drivers to come from deep in the field up to the front. But then again, that last run we saw Bradley Holly, who's been stuck around 10th spot for quite a while here. So I guess live by the sword, die by the sword. But this track has been fairly racy here today.
Has indeed. I've been surprised at the amount of moves that have been made around here. It is interesting, though, Bradley Holly not being able to advance back forward after fighting for the lead. Maybe he's just preserving his tyres, trying to go for the mother of all runs at the very end. He's going to have to make sure that he's in the right spot for that, though, and hope that there's no mistakes from anyone around him, or that he doesn't make a mistake and bring out the caution. Well, the pace car's in the pit lane now. We're going to go for another restart to begin lap 77 of a projected 100. When does Daniel Knight decide to go? He goes right in the middle of turn 3. That is the earliest we've seen anyone go all night, and what a gap he holds on to. Clayton Montgomery follows them through, getting alongside Joshua Daniels and back up into 2nd place with Thomas Sink right there with them. But of course, Joshua Daniels, he loves throwing that truck in on the outside. He's doing that once more. And having to back out slightly is Clayton Montgomery, slightly tighter line, using the tyres a little bit more. And Joshua Daniels just puts his foot down and says, no, 2nd place is mine for the time being. But Daniel Knight He's gotten the good gap off the start. We'll have to wait and see, though, if Joshua Daniels can get back into a rhythm, as Bradley Holly going way down into the dog leg to try and gain any position he can. Maybe a tiny bit of oversteer on the very inside of turn 2. He's not been able to get the run on Matthew Long that he wants, but he'll be trying his darndest to get those positions, get back up to the lead. We certainly know that he's capable of it. As Doug Evans, he's going to have to face a charge here from Matthew Long. Up through the dog leg, and my goodness, up the inside into turn 2. What will Matthew Long be able to do here to hold off the advance around the outside for Doug Evans? Bradley Holly's trying to follow him through. An outside line definitely works in turns 3 and 4. Holly sees a gap open in the middle, and they're going to go 3 wide across the start-finish line. Down to the dog leg they go once again, but Matthew Long will stay at the front of this pack. Doug Evans has to back out of it, and there goes Bradley Holly around the outside. That will be the position for him, surely.
And you can see things still very competitive, very dicey here towards the upper part of the field here. You have Doug Evans there in the 41 trying to find a way around Matthew Long. Bradley Holly making some progress up through the field, and we still have 20 laps to go, Reese, and I could say this race is pretty far from decided.
Yeah, I reckon any of the drivers on screen could potentially take victory here. What a magnificent restart for Bradley Holly, just working his way back up. He's now taken Mark Kalin for 6th place coming through turns 3 and 4. Yeah, I can tell what he was doing there. He was saving up his tyres for the run to the front. Now Thomas Sink is his next target. They got Danny Cervantes and Clayton Montgomery up ahead, and you see the pace difference. Bradley Holly is driving the wheels off the 184 at the moment.
Yeah, Holly is definitely digging, trying to get every spot he can. Has taken another one away up to 6th, and he's going to work on Thomas Sink to break back into the top 5.
All the way down to the dog leg, across pit exit goes Holly, and up the inside into turns 1 and 2. And that is the position decided there. Thomas Sink, though, he'll certainly be happy where he is at the moment, considering he started down in 28th. But for Bradley Holly, his next target is Danny Cervantes, and our pole sitter Clayton Montgomery. For the lead, Daniel Knight still holding on to a gap of about half a second over Joshua Daniels. And look at how cramped it's looking here in the lower reaches of the top 10. Holly up the inside into turns 1 and 2. He's going to have to back out slightly. Cervantes pushing Clayton Montgomery through the corner and going to try up the inside. Holly will be looking for an opportunity here. The more these guys battle, the more of a chance he has to get up the inside. And with a very good run off of turn 4, he might be able to sneak one up the inside at turns 1 and 2 again. Unfortunately, he does not, and he's stuck behind Clayton Montgomery and Danny Cervantes for a couple more corners, so this might be the end of the run just about, or maybe not. Clayton Montgomery forced wide a little bit there in turns 3 and 4. He's going to have to let Bradley Holly go, and that's going to be that. Holly ahead of Montgomery, now Cervantes the next target. Nicholas Hunter just coming out of the pits here alongside them. He might throw a bit of a spanner into the works for the drivers battling outside the top 10. It's not that far now to Joshua Daniels and Daniel Knight up in the lead here in the Precision Racing League NASCAR Truck Series at Phoenix Raceway, coming up on 14 laps to go. Lap 87 begins.
He may have been relegated to the back of the top 5, but definitely no shame in the race today. For Clayton Montgomery has had a tremendous run here this evening, and has been one of the fastest trucks on the track for most of the night. And looks like he, barring disaster, will be in line for a very solid finish now, as Holly and Cervantes now duking it out for that final podium spot.
Oh, Holly, yes, all the way down to the dog leg, and Clayton Montgomery getting past Matthew, or trying to defend from Matthew Long as well. So Holly has managed to get past Cervantes, but Cervantes with the outside line out of turn 2. Gets the momentum. Oh no, they make contact. Bradley Holly into the wall. Oh dear, he ricochets back into Cervantes. Oh, we stay green, but that is not an incident that either of those drivers would have wanted. Holly's now lost those positions back to Clayton Montgomery and Matthew Long, and he'll be carrying that damage for the rest of the race.
Yeah, you can see some severe damage to the bodywork. No idea how deep that goes, if maybe the toe was knocked out or anything, but Bradley Holly and Danny Cervantes, they're making contact, and that is going to be very detrimental to both of their races.
Oh man, it reminds me of Martinsville last week. You know, Bradley Holly, he was going for the lead and they went 3 wide, and unfortunately he was caught up in the midst of all of that. So it seems almost the same story here at Phoenix Raceway. A little bit of contact and, you know, just that little bit of rubbing at high speed side to side, stymieing his run towards the lead of this race. And now as we come up on 10 laps to go for our leader Daniel Knight, I fear that there's not much chance here for Bradley Holly to try and come back and take the race win here. He showed some great pace, but of course I think we've been talking about Bradley Holly a little too much here. We've got to give some props to Daniel Knight up at the front of the field. I mean, look at the gap that he's managed to hold on to and extend for that matter. It's up to almost 8/10 for the number 17, and I think one of the finest drives I've ever seen from him so far.
Yeah, that's one of, if not the biggest lead we've seen anybody have today. So Daniel Knight locking things down here in the closing stages of this race.
Making his way past Charles Sumner down in 14th, and poor Charles, he's been involved in a couple of incidents here today. You can tell by the very sorry state of the front of his truck, but he still has his eyes on stalks. He still gives everyone room as they make their way through. Bradley Holly starting to lose a bit of pace here. He had to back out a little bit, have to take some evasive action. Charles Sumner into the wall there, and Holly now under pressure for position. Thomas Sink and Danny Cervantes right behind him, and they're all losing time to Matthew Long just up ahead. Seems that this is the way it's going to be unless there's a big difference in tyre life. Daniel Knight still holds on to the fastest lap, and he's just cruising at the moment. Everyone's setting low 28s as they're near the end of the serviceable life of these tyres, 47 laps old, but they're still managing to keep it under control, which is great to see. And it's only single file running here in the top 10. Meanwhile, well, it actually looks to me like Cowgill still holding on to that last position in the top 10, but he's got some pressure from behind the two Toyota Tundras of Miguel Angel Cardozo and Jose Medina, and having to contend with lapped cars as well. Let's see how that works out for Patrick. It's certainly not been the best of races for him, but Miguel and Jose up 14 and 18 positions respectively. Thomas Sink still up 22 positions, running in P6, and the end of the race is rapidly approaching as that gap for Daniel Knight continues to extend. It's now over 8/10 now over Joshua Daniels.
Taking a look here at our biggest movers, how about Thomas Sink there, Reese? Up 23 positions from the start. He was one of those drivers, did not make a qualifying attempt, but he has kept his nose clean, and he is just outside of the top 5 right now, making huge gains to get up through the field.
Very huge gains. That's Bradley Holly still keeping Thomas Sink behind him, though. Driving very hard into turn 2 is Thomas Sink, and maybe trying to cut a bit low here to try and move into turns 3 and 4. He doesn't have the traction, though, to get it done on Bradley Holly for now. Oh, he gives him a bit of a bump in turn 3 and 4. Looks like it might be a bump and run here for Thomas Sink. Try to gain another position here. Down through the dog leg, run as tight as possible. Oh, no. That's all 3 of them making contact with each other. Bradley Holly getting spun around. The caution is out, and I think we might actually finish under caution at this rate.
Now, they do have one attempt at a green-white checker, but at this point, if you're Bradley Holly, you have to be steaming mad. That is not how he has wanted the last couple weeks to go.
Goodness me. Yeah, oh man. So what on earth happened there? It was coming off the dog leg. Bradley Holly was staying tight when he came back onto the racing surface, but Thomas Sink was taking a bit more of a straight line run. You see it there. I think Sink was expecting Holly to go high a little earlier, so a bit of a miscommunication between the drivers there, and I think neither of them will be all too happy with that. They've both lost out.
And got to give a shout out to our director, Zach Johnson, who caught that at just the perfect angle as we caught it live. So definitely the best coverage you're going to find in esports here on the Global Sim Racing channel.
For sure. And wow, plenty of dents now on the 184. One of our championship protagonists, but is it going to start falling apart here for Bradley Holly? He's jumped into the pits now and getting some fresh tyres on for potential for a run with the green-white checkered. And it is confirmed we will have a green-white checkered. And it will be the final caution where we'll try for one of them. So, all comes down to this. How much of a loss is it really going to be for Bradley Holly? Fallen down to 11th place as things stand. He's still in the pits there. And a good decision, I think, for Bradley Holly to get those tyres on.
Yeah, at this point, really nothing left to lose.
Yes. Well, actually, he's stayed in the pits there. Oh, there we go. I feared for a moment he might have retired, but I think he was just getting a little bit of extra damage repaired because, I mean, obviously he's been knocked about a fair bit here tonight. So Bradley Holly rejoins in 14th place. Do you think he'll be able to get it done?
It's going to be a close one either way. I mean, everyone has been so fast today. Daniel Knight has really been on at this last portion of the race, but Joshua Daniels, he only has to be fast for one little moment to get ahead. It's going to be just it's just going to be a huge shootout here, and I'm excited to see what'll happen. But as far as what I might think happen, anything's possible right now.
I'm just seeing on my timing it's showing up as the last lap. I don't know if we're going to get a chance to see a green-white checkered here. So maybe that decision to pit for Bradley Holly was the wrong one. He's ended up losing out a bit more than he would have wanted as they come through the final corner under caution. It looks like it is going to be victory for Daniel Knight. And away they go. Actually, hold up a minute. No. I'm a bit confused here. We have run over the time limit. We've got the green-white checkered to contend with. The timing is showing it up as the last lap, but maybe these drivers are going to go for another run here. I don't know what's going on. Well, the pace car comes into the pits, and we will be getting a potential restart here, but I don't know if it's actually going to be the checkered flag. Surely it's a green-white checkered still, despite the fact that we've gone over the time limit.
Well, I guess we'll see here momentarily. The race control saying that it is a green-white checker, but also saying that it is the final lap, so we're going to see here.
All right, well, it's on. Daniel Knight still running strong. Clayton Montgomery trying for another run at second. Joshua Daniels trying around the outside. The top four all together here. Daniels on the outside as Matthew Long almost goes through the middle. Oh, there we go. They're wrecking again. And looks like that might just be race over. Daniel Knight is going to race to the line. It is checkered flag. Daniel Knight wins at Phoenix Raceway in the Precision Racing League NASCAR Truck Series. Joshua Daniels P2. Clayton Montgomery still holding on for a P3 finish. And Bradley Holly managed to make his way back up to 7th in the midst of all of that. So certainly not the worst of recoveries there. for the number 184, but it's going to be all about the number 17 here tonight. Daniel Knight started in 6th place, but once he got into the lead, he was not willing to let it go.
Yeah, it was a tremendous finish there, and Daniel Knight being in the right place at the right time and put in a strong performance, finds himself heading to victory lane.
And some drivers getting a little push as well on their way on the in-lap. Well, the victory celebrations begin for Daniel Knight. Donuts across the start-finish line, and he has no use for those rear tyres anymore. Certainly they'll be put to good use here, getting turned into smoke at Phoenix. Well, as he jumps up to the wall and goes for the real big burnout across the start-finish line, we're going to step aside briefly here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll be back very shortly with our race results and interviews with our top 3.
Hey there, I'm Nicholas Dubois, co-founder of Advanced Sim Racing. We are a Canadian company. So what we did here today is for a real petrol head. He's really passionate about cars, as you can see behind me. We did a turnkey solution for him based on his needs. We try to gather as much information as we can on our client. And like we did today, we install a D-box system. We install ultra-wide cube control steering wheel. We try to provide the best quality for your budget. So let's say if you want a budget of 10 grand, we're gonna give you something that's the best for 10 grand. If you want 20 grand, then we always try to stay within your boundaries. We do try to make it as easy as possible. So the client, once we install everything, it's pretty much gonna be a turnkey. So he's gonna press start on his computer, and right after, we'll try to explain everything, how it goes, how it works, and then he's ready to go. Our aluminum is from USA, treated in Canada, cut in Canada. So we do sand all our aluminum piece just to make sure the powder coat sticks to it. And that's one of the reasons why we use powder coat, is to make sure you have the best aluminum finish in the industry. And our quality is beyond what you can get with any other competitors right now. We are really, really passionate about all the gear, all the cockpits, all the sim hardware, and that's why we want to create something that's really going to reflect our passion into our product. Come visit us at advancedsimracing.com. You can always reach us if you have any questions. You can call us, you can text us, you can go on Facebook, like our page, ask us questions over there, and we'll make sure to answer every question there is. We are very passionate about what we do, and we try to make it as easier for you to go into the sim racing world, because there's a lot of gear, there's a lot of options, but let us guide you through your process, and let's hope you'll be an Advanced Sim Racing customer.
Well, you're watching the Precision Racing League NASCAR Truck Series here on the Global Sim Racing channel. What a race we just had at the brand new configuration of Phoenix International Raceway. A brilliant run it was from Daniel Knight, who took victory from Joshua Daniels in the green-white checkered, which was cut short a little bit due to the time limit. Clayton Montgomery completes the podium. Still an excellent result to convert into for our pole sitter. He can be proud proud of that. Matthew Long and Doug Evans will round out the top 5. Patrick Cowgill makes it up to 6th place despite getting knocked about a fair bit throughout the course of the race. It was Bradley Holly who got knocked about at the end. He had to settle for 7th. Mark Kalin finishes 8th, and then it's Miguel Angel Cardozo and Thomas Sink who round out the top 10. Sink falling down the order a bit in the final few laps.
Just outside of the top 10 was going to be Ryan Traver, then Charles Sumner, our final truck on the lead lap. Jose Medina, Danny Cervantes, and Tom Amacy all three 1 lap down. 2 laps down for Rob Naylor, 3 laps for Adam Young and Danik Momi, and then Barron Hilton and Nicholas Hunter having a bit of a rough go of it today.
CM Pennington crossed the line in 21st place. Behind him was Rob Haynes in the 199, and he showed great promise early on in the race, but unfortunately could not convert it into a top 20 result, though he still gains 5 positions. Behind them, Jim Westerfield, Austin Hunter rounding out the top 25, and then we get into quite a few laps down territory. Colton Lane, Dalton Geyer, Adam Zemke retiring, Eric Hauk retiring, Patrick Caron retiring as well. Doyle Lawrence could not make it to the end. Neither could Weo Guerra or AJ Roderick. Adam Shane, meanwhile, he was out very early. And of course, Abner Acosta using this as his drop week this season. No qualifying, no racing for our championship leader. Well then, it's time to have a bit of a chat to our top 3, and the first, of course, is going to be the number 17 of Daniel Knight. Welcome, Daniel. Congratulations. 6th to 1st, but you certainly had to work hard tonight.
Yeah, thank you. That kind of surprised me. I didn't get a chance to practice a lot this week, and maybe that and being out of the playoffs meant that I didn't get in my head and overthink it and just was out there having fun. But that was a blast. That was a great race.
Certainly looked like a blast from up here in the commentary box. With this new configuration of Phoenix, how does it change your approach to racing this track?
I actually like it better. The Milwaukee Mile is one of my favorites. I think I've won the last couple that we've gone to in the PRL trucks, and now with the flatter 3 and 4 now for Phoenix, it drives a lot like that, just a little bit faster. So really plays into my style of driving and what I enjoy doing, which is heavy braking and throttle control. So I'm liking it a lot.
And the last season we raced at Phoenix. It was in daytime conditions, but we're racing at night here. How does that change your approach to the track?
Yeah, the nighttime. I mean, you could definitely be a little bit more aggressive and not worry about the tires too much. The track temps are colder, and I mean, it's still Phoenix. You still can burn them off pretty easily, but once I found a good setting on the brake balance and kind of a line that was working out for me, I kind of found myself catching up to those guys, and that was awesome. That was so much fun.
Well, as you mentioned, playoffs not on your mind anymore, and you were 15th in the overall championship coming down into this round. But this win certainly going to lift your spirits. Some more championship points on the dial for you. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I've only got one other win for the year, and that was way back in season 1. So I'm glad to have gotten another one. It's a nice little boost after getting knocked out of the playoffs there, for sure.
Well, who would you like to thank for this victory today, Mr. Knight?
All the riding shotgun guys, all the guys that were running up front there, Clayton, Josh, Matt, Brad, were running an awesome, clean, fun, challenging race. And then, of course, the PRL guys for putting on an awesome league, and y'all for doing an awesome broadcast.
Daniel Knight in the number 17, your winner here tonight at Phoenix Raceway. Second place was the number 77 of Joshua Daniels, a very strong drive. Chris Phobie's going to talk to him about it.
Well, Josh, great run today. The truck looked very fast, and obviously that chaotic last lap. Take us through it.
Oh yeah, that's one of those things. You know, when the timer runs out, you never know what's going to happen. We didn't know if we were going to have a little shootout to the finish, or we were actually going to have a green-white checker. I wanted to start in first gear, but I learned early on in the week that the first gear on the outside with that many laps on the tires, man, it just wasn't the thing to do. So I restarted in second and kind of sealed the deal there for a night. But I was trying to protect second after that point. But You know, I was glad to be able to hold on to second. I saw Holly and Cerventos catching me at one time, man. I don't think that worked out very well for them.
No, it certainly did not work out very well for them at all. But yeah, it looked like a pretty racy track out there today too. Was it as much fun for you guys as it was for us to call?
Yeah, it was a blast, man. I mean, you could really send it into, well, I guess it's turns, 1 and 2 now, the old 3 and 4. But yeah, that was fun driving into that right there, man. You could really sell it in there.
All right, we head to Darlington next week. What are your thoughts on another kind of oddball track?
You know, that's one place I've never been good at. So, you know, I'm going to put a lot of practice on it and see if I can get up to speed like I was this week and try to get me another interview, you know.
All right. Anybody you want to thank to help make today possible for you?
I'd like to thank my wife for all her support, and GSRC and the PRL for putting on a good show.
All right. That's Joshua Daniels, our runner-up finisher today. Congratulations, Josh. And back to you, Reese.
Thank you.
Indeed. Excellent drive from Joshua Daniels tonight. And it was also an excellent drive for our P3 man, Clayton Montgomery. Mr. Montgomery, pole position for you. Were you surprised by that?
Oh, yes. I was very surprised based off of how practice went for the first little bit. I was very surprised.
Seems that this new configuration of Phoenix and the nighttime conditions suits you.
Yeah, practice a little bit past couple days, but like I said, it was a good race between everyone up front. I'm still trying to learn this configuration, and it's kind of the same, but also has its uniqueness by itself.
Yeah, certainly does. In those middle phases of the race, we had a very long green flag run between the beginning and then about 2/3 of the way in. Were you thinking about any kinds of strategy calls to try and get yourself back into the lead?
I knew the green flag pit stops were about to happen, and I think Bradley even went to start and the yellow come out. So I knew that was coming up, and from then, if it was going to depend on if it went caution-free after that or how many cautions went up from there. So it was really just waiting on to see when the next caution was.
Well, in addition to getting pole, you ended up leading quite a few laps at the start of the race, and that's going to be very good in terms of the points for you. Any points gained certainly a positive?
Oh, yeah. I don't know where I stand at now, but I think I was either 5th or 6th coming in, so today was definitely a pretty good points day.
And we go to Darlington next week. How do you feel about that place?
To be honest, I don't know if I've even driven the trucks on Darlington, so I'll probably have some practicing to do and some learning.
Well, if tonight is anything to go by, I think you can certainly expect some good things next week, Clayton. Before we let you go, is there anyone you'd like to thank for your podium and pole today?
Just the car and MotorSports guys and all RD for what they do and throwing this team together at the last minute. And the PRL for putting this on pretty weekly, and you all for streaming it to everybody.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, Clayton Montgomery, your 3rd place man, and of course, taking pole position tonight. An excellent performance all round from the number 45. Well, Chris, that brings to an end proceedings for tonight. We go to Darlington next week, and wow, I mean, you know, Darlington. You don't really need to say much about it. It's a legendary circuit, and it'll certainly provide a challenge for the drivers.
Yeah, when it comes to this form of racing, Darlington is definitely the granddaddy of all these tracks, and it's going to be a complex puzzle for these guys to try to work through, as well as having playoff and championship implications. We'll see if Abner Acosta can bounce back after missing a week, and we'll see if maybe Daniel Knight can carry forward some of that momentum.
We hope that you will join us for that next week. Before we go, though, thank you to our series sponsors once more. Advanced SimRacing. They design and build the sturdiest and most durable aluminium profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. Visit them at advancedsimracing.com. RaceLab as well. It helps you to improve your driving skills. Start using it now for free at RaceLab.app. The ButtKicker. Feel what you've been missing at thebuttkicker.com. Simulation Motorsports Affinity. Find out how you can bridge the gap between virtual and real motorsports at SIMMSA.net. And finally, a big thank you to NinjaTrader. Visit ninjatrader.com and get started with a risk-free trading simulator to start tracking your performance. Thanks also to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcasts listed here on your screen. Additional thanks must always go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. Check out her Bandcamp page for more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Chris, Zach, and Dougie providing the cameras. You can find more info about GSRC at globalsimracingchannel.com or through our social media at the bottom of your screen. Also, please check out our merchandise store at simracingmerch.com/GSRC. We keep a link in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. The next race in the PRL NASCAR Truck Series is, of course, Darlington on the 10th of November at 8:50 p.m. Eastern Time. We also have upcoming races for other series we broadcast listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, we say race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.